While in Berlin, preparing the third edition of the Natural Economic Order, Gesell received an offer to participate in the socialization committee of the Bavarian Hoffman government. He immediately left for Munich. On his arrival, he was told that he must wait for the return of a certain delegate who had gone to Berlin. In Munich, he passed the time, while waiting for the return of the official, with his friend, Dr. Theophil Christen, an eminent mathematician and physicist, who gave a complete mathematical formula to Gesell's statement of prices. We are told that Gesell read the daily papers only superficially and followed the peace parleys with little apparent interest. Local Bavarian politics did not interest the future Minister of Finance of Bavaria, whose ideas and aims would do away forever with all these trivial struggles, as well in Bavaria as everywhere else on earth. With the statesman's grasp of the fundamental issues behind politics, he knew that his financial measures would make possible for the first time an era of objective politics. On the 7th of April, when he went to meet the delegate who had returned from Berlin, Gesell learned that the Hoffman government had been overthrown and a new one set up under Gustav Landauer, one of the heroes of revolutionary Germany. Landauer, himself a socialist, though not of the Moscow persuasion, made haste to offer to Gesell the post of Minister of Finance. So heartily did he share Gesell's views. "You are given a free hand. Inaugurate your reforms," said Landauer, the first statesman to recognize the merits of Gesell's extraordinary experience and preparation for the task. The following day, Gesell took over his office. What then happened constitutes a unique first chapter in history. Also, in the history of revolutions, because Gesell began by fully informing the people of every detail of his proposed plans, his measures, and their intended and ultimate effects on the economic welfare of each class, of farmers, of workers, and, in fact, the entire nation. In concise appeals and manifestos written for the man in the street, he presented his very simple and basic reforms. These articles appeared in the newspapers of Bavaria daily. Economic and financial conditions were as chaotic and ruinous as they could possibly be, yet he was not filled with the pessimism or despair, as were most all of the people. All he asked for was a little time to be able to start the machinery of economic life going by means of the dynamic free money. It is one of the tragedies of humanity that great, impartial, liberating actions can rarely take place because of the bickerings and personal jealousies and party appeals of men and classes. On April 14th, 1 week after he had taken over the office of Minister of Finance, the government to which Gesell belonged was in turn overthrown by the communists of the Moscow persuasion. Gustav Landauer was thrown into prison and foully murdered. Nevertheless, Gesell continued his plans and did not flee or resign, but labored to convince the communists of his ability to achieve economic justice without having to forcibly expropriate private property and without having to resort to an exploiting bureaucracy of dictators. On the night of April 15th, the communists prevented Gesell from issuing the appeal to all money hoarders, having drawn up a draft of an invitation to all nations to attend an international conference for the stabilization of the foreign rates of exchange on the basis of a stabilized price level on the home markets. He was prevented from sending it out. The new dictators insisted that Gesell immediately pay over 500,000 Reichsmarks. When Gesell refused to do this, unless a guarantee was given him that his plans would be carried out by the new government, he was deposed on the spot. True to the orthodox Marxian theories, the new communist government began dictating by declaring a 10 days general strike, despite Gesell's first plea to the population to return to work on the promise that he would soon provide them with more than enough for all. Opposing the new communist regime, he knew well that only the undisturbed play of economic forces brought about by free money would finally bury capitalism beneath its own capital goods and a general prosperity. In the days of excitement following the bloody overthrow of the regime of the communists, 3 weeks later, Gesell and his assistants, Dr. Kristen and Professor Polanski of Greifswald University, were arrested on the suspicion that they were communists. All were accused of high treason. Gesell's speech of defense before the Munich tribunal has been adjudged worthy to stand alongside of Demosthenes' defense of his own life and among the greatest speeches in history. All were acquitted of the charge of high treason. Scientists, economic leaders, and other people came from all over Central Europe to testify in Gesell's behalf.